Hey, hi guys. So I've been wanted to work on a game where the core mechanics is one object rotating around another object. So say it's a ship and we have a planet in the middle and the ship needs to rotate around the planet. That is our core mechanics and we're using GameMaker to implement this. So we're going to need two sprites out here. One is the planet and one is the ship. We're going to quickly go ahead and create that. So spt underscore planet. We are going to increase the size of this to give it around 200. Sorry, 200. Keep that out there. We quickly go ahead and draw a planet. Use blue maybe and a fill color, and yeah, just draw. Yeah, I think we are there. Draw the planet. That is the beauty of GameMaker. You have an inbuilt editor which is super helpful. And we need one more sprite. spt underscore ship. Yeah, I think I spelled it right. And we're not going to change the width out here because it's anyway smaller than the planet. So probably yellow or orangish kind of a color. Just keep it something, anything I'm just choosing. So and we roughly draw a triangle using a triangle because it helps to see the direction where it is facing. So roughly we'll be able to see that this is the point of the ship, and we're going to get two objects now because in GameMaker everything needs to be objects where we add code. Obj underscore planet and obj underscore ship. So for the planet, we're going to give the planet sprite. For the ship, we are going to give the, sorry, yeah, for the ship, let me just move this off. Yeah, for the ship, we're going to give the ship sprite. So one more thing we need to fix out here is the origin of both these sprites. So basically for the planet, the origin will be the middle center, and for the ship, the origin will be middle center but a little bit behind out here. So around this area should be the origin of the triangle. So basically this is around which, if you rotate the triangle, this is where it's going to rotate. So if you go ahead and rotate, like place this image out here, and if you rotate the ship, you'll see it's actually rotating around its own axis. So if you just open this out here, we'll need, anyways we're going to need two events out here, create event and a step event, based on which we are going to work. So if you just check out the origin of the ship, the rotation out here, we can just quickly go ahead and rotate the image plus equal to say 1 degree per frame. So the, see, you can see as the ship is actually rotating around its own origin. But from here, what we want to happen is we want the ship to rotate around the, like, use the origin as the planet's origin. So this should be the origin, and the distance of the ship would be half the planet's width, like the diameter of the planet divided by 2, which would be, give us the radius plus a little bit of gap we want to keep there. So now if you go ahead and try to code this logic out here, we go to back to GameMaker, we're going to need a couple of variables out here. First we need the target ship, target underscore planet is equal to obj underscore planet. We're going to need a rotation speed. The rotation underscore speed is equal to say 1. We're just going to keep it 1 for now. We're going to need an angle, basically the angle where the ship is initially facing, and we're going to need a gap. Basically the gap is, so the radius is half the dimension of the planet, plus we want some gap there. We're going to calculate dimension dynamically in the step event because I believe the object might change, so they might have different widths. So we're going to do it at runtime. So gap we're going to keep around 100 for now. We might fine tune this later. So let's quickly go ahead and in the step event code the logic of the motion. We're going to increase the angle every step plus equal to rotation speed. That's going to give us the rotation. And we don't want the angle to be greater than 360 because I just personally I prefer it to be within the 360 range. If we do not do this, it's not going to have any issues, but like I like to keep it below 360. If it goes to 360, it should reset to 0. So if angle is greater than equal to 360, we just go ahead and reset it. Angle is equal to 0. So it just gives us a clear numbers to work with. So now if we go ahead and think about what do we need to do to rotate this. So basically rotation is nothing more than a change in angle and a change in xy coordinates of the ship. So if you go out here, the x is increasing, y is decreasing. Here the x is decreasing, y is decreasing. Here the x is decreasing, y is increasing, and here the y is increasing, x is also increasing. That's how a rotation happens. So to calculate the x and y axis, we need to first use the obj planet's origin. That is the origin we want. And to calculate this angle, there is an inbuilt function in GameMaker, length underscore direction, which takes two parameters. One is the gap which we want to dynamically calculate now. So we can use a variable final underscore gap is equal to target planet dot sprite width, sprite width divided by 2. That's going to be the radius of the planet, plus we want to add in a little bit of gap around there, margin maybe. So we're going to use the gap variable out here, put that in. So it's going to give us this plus the gap, and we're going to pass this into the first parameter, and the second parameter would be the angle which we calculated out here. That should give us the x coordinate angle. I think I got that right, yeah. And we're going to do the same thing for the axis also, the y position. So you just change everything x with y and we should be good. At this point, if you go ahead and run the game, the ship should be rotating around the planet. Yeah, super, that is working. But there's one problem, is the ship is not facing the correct direction. So it's always facing that same direction. We want to change the angle also. As I said, there are two components out here, basically the xy position and the angle. So for that we need to change the image angle also. Image angle is equal to angle. There will be another problem which I'll tell you, but at this point the image should be facing, it should be changing its direction it's facing based on the rotation. But out here this is a ship and currently it looks weird. The ship is facing outside because generally all the calculation is happening assuming the ship is like facing this ways. Like ship needs to be actually facing this side towards, like it's circling around the planet. To do that we need to add in a 90-degree compensation out here. So this is all situational. If you're not using a ship, you might be using something else, you might not need to add in this compensation. But in this case, since I wanted to replicate a ship mechanics, so I need to add in this compensation. So I'll just add in 90 degrees, just it's facing outside, so just move it 90 degrees upward. So then it should be facing the right direction. Yeah, so at this point the ship should be rotating and be facing the right direction. And since we are changing angles, and it's also very good practice to set the direction property to the angle, because GameMaker internally uses some directions out here. So any kind of collision or that detection, you might want to set this also. It's a good practice, but if you're not done that, you still have the rotation working, but you might be having issues elsewhere. So good practice also to go ahead and set the direction. And yeah, once we do that, the ship should be rotating around the planet smoothly. There's obviously some more fine tune that can be done out here, but this is the core mechanics. So that's about how you go ahead and rotate an object around another object. If you like the video, please subscribe and share the video for anybody who you think this is going to help. And I make more videos on coding and using .NET, Flutter and GameMaker. So if you're into that, do subscribe, and yeah, see you next time. Bye bye.